What a stunning approach! But now comes a waiting time of 8 hours for the onward flight. Well, we're taking advantage of that, and instead of hanging around the airport, we're checking out the area. And today that's Sydney. Hello my dear ones, today from Sydney's International Airport. I'm having 8 hours today between two flights, and I've never been to Sydney, so that's reason enough to go to town and just check out Sydney for a couple of hours. Of course, you always have to plan some time for getting into town and getting out of town and then checking in your luggage again, but that's fine. Let's go check out Sydney for 5 hours. A lot of people might be put off by such a venture, but in Sydney it's so easy. The airport is directly connected to downtown Sydney by train, and it takes only 20 minutes to the city centre or half an hour by taxi. So we're starting our little city tour at Hyde Park, and that's just next to Museum Station, and that's again just 15 minutes from the airport by train. However, if you're more than one person traveling or doing the city walk, you might consider taking a taxi cab because the train is 20 Australian dollars, so that's not exactly a bargain. And from Hyde Park we're continuing on to St. Mary's Cathedral, just next to Hyde Park, and all that on the way to Sydney's famous landmark, the Opera House. One of the most beautiful opera houses in the world, of course, and actually probably the one opera house with the worst acoustics of all big opera houses in the world. We've only got a few hours and we want to see as much as possible, so we have to decide beforehand, do we want to get a great overview or visit one or two famous museums? Both won't be possible. Now, Sydney is not a big museum town, so I clearly decided to go for a big walk. A visit to the Hyde Park Barracks, however, is quick and definitely worthwhile. You should just check the opening hours in advance. And on we go from Hyde Park down Macquarie Street, and that's a street where all those nice historical buildings are, like the Mint and the old Sydney Eye Hospital and Parliament House. It's very easy to walk here. It's quite a small downtown actually, so it's really a very nice and easy walk. And before we're getting to Sydney's landmark, or main landmark, that's the Sydney Opera House of course, we're walking through this beautiful botanical garden, and it's so nice that you have this in between the old houses of Macquarie Street, and then before getting to the modern opera house, or kind of modern opera house of Sydney. This is really nice, and it's so beautiful that you can do all this within a half a day. It's really very nice. I never thought I'd ever see free-living cacadus in my life, but I did, and not just one, but a whole flock of cacadus. And I also saw a kookaburra just sitting there, for me as a European totally amazing. But now, at the end of the Royal Botanic Gardens, here it is, the Sydney Opera House. Now look, this is really quite a big opera house, and I must say I'm pretty impressed because, I mean, of course it's one of the bigger opera houses, but it's not one of the biggest, although it's really famous, but I was really not expecting it to be so big. Anyway, on the other side, just opposite of the opera house, you will see the other landmark of Sydney, and that's the Harbour Bridge, the famous Harbour Bridge, and that, on the other hand, I expected to be much bigger. Well, so much about expectation and reality. Still, it's of course a very beautiful landmark, and next to it we have an ugly cruise ship, and then we have the quite impressive, or quite nice at least, skyline. If you just want to see the Sydney Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, you can do that in much shorter time. Just 30 minutes separate the airport from two of the world's most famous landmarks. So we have left the harbour area and the rocks area, and we're going down now on York Street. That's a street with a mix of modern and Victorian and some Art Deco buildings, and also the Eiffel Tower of Sydney. So we left the harbour area and the rocks area for downtown, and here I am at Martin Place, a very nice area with Victorian buildings and almost a pedestrian zone feeling, almost, or actually really a European feeling, whatever that might be. And from here we're going now to York Street with a mix of modern and Art Deco buildings, and also the famous Sydney Eiffel Tower. And then we're having George Street, which is kind of Fifth Avenue here in Sydney, with all the famous brands. Well, I'm not coming here for the brands, but the buildings are also quite nice. And of course, it's also impressive to see that every town has the same brands worldwide. Of course, there's the same shopping malls and stereotype luxury brands as everywhere, but there's a few nice shopping galleries too, and that's where we go. Just before the Townhall, we are arriving at this building here. Very big Victorian building, I would say, and that's Victoria Mall. Let's go in there. And we have arrived at the Townhall, and actually it's kind of small, but of course it's beautiful and it's old. If you still have some time before your onward flight, you can also walk down to Darling Harbour from here and have a drink or two with a view of the small harbour. But be careful and keep checking the time, or best of all, set an alarm 30 minutes before the earliest time you should drive back to the airport. That way the excursion will be all stress-free. Well, when you do a city walk like this one, where you want to see as much as possible of the city in very few hours, you cannot see everything. So I'm cutting the Chinese garden and I'm cutting Darlinghurst. That's supposed to be a nice neighborhood, and Chinese garden supposed to be a really nice garden. And of course I'm also not doing a harbor tour, because once you have only 5 hours time for everything, you cannot do everything. That's very clear. But it's so much better than sitting in the airport, no matter how beautiful the lounge is, and just waiting for your next flight. So my dear ones, I hope you really enjoyed this quick walk through Sydney. I think it's so much better than just waiting at the airport for your connecting flight. So much better than just staying in the lounge, no matter how beautiful it might be, because there's so much to discover here in Sydney and you can see so much in just 5 hours. I hope you really enjoyed this little report about this walk through Sydney, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There's so many more reports about destinations worldwide from all continents, as you can see, and also airline reports from low cost, economy class, business class, and also first class. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and see you again very soon here at Travel, Sing, Fly.